Immortal demon of Konoha, the ninja who broke all rules. Please like, share, and subscribe. Episode 61 The Bound Inuzuka Claw, Irresistible Seduction. The person who opened the door for Aoji was Inuzuka. After entering the gate, Aoji glanced into the room and saw Inuzuka Hana, who was setting up the dishes and chopsticks. And Inuzuka Claws. Inuzuka also saw Aoji for the first time, and the whole person seemed to be stunned by lightning. The huge shock made her brain almost explode. But in the blink of an eye, she still grasped the point of the problem, that is, her daughter really fell into the clutches of Aoji. This so-called lover is the beast that ravaged himself. The initial consternation was quickly replaced by absolute anger, and although she knew that she was not Aoji's opponent at all, she still exploded with a surprising momentum and rushed to fight with him. Aoji calmly opened the Eternal Kaleidoscope. Before the body of the dog's claw could make any movement, the spirit was pulled into the moon reading space at the moment of the gaze. What kind of magic is this? Although Inuzuka wanted to rush over and fight Aoji for his life, he found that his body could not even move a finger. This is the world that my pupil power has constructed. Aoji walked leisurely to Inuzuka's paws. Whether it is time or space, everything in this world is under my control, so you better settle down, you have absolutely no chance of winning. And the nature of the world is indeed magic. Aoji slowly walked over to Inuzuka's side, his eyes going up and down her body. No matter who of us kills whom, it won't affect the reality of the other party, so why fight with swords? Calm down, we can talk. The corners of Aoji's mouth revealed a faint smile. I believe you must have a lot of things in your heart that you want to say to me, right? Why? I want to ask you why. Since it is impossible to physically add up to the violence against Aoji, Inuyasha can only vent his anger on words. Why hurt us like this? Do you have a vendetta against our Inuzuka family? Do you want to question me now? Aoji smiled indifferently. When I gave the Inuzuka clan a rich cooperation treaty, why didn't you think of doubting my motives? You know, if you have nothing to offer, you are either adulterous or thefty. You set your sights on me and Inuzuka from the beginning? Inuzuka's eyes were filled with anger. Let's put it this way. Aoji nodded. From the very beginning, you couldn't escape my palm. And I've already got Inuzuka, and tasted you, and even killing me won't change these facts. I urge you to accept your fate. The facts can't be changed anyway, so why not calm down and accept the reality? Think about it. What else do you have to lose other than to abandon useless self-esteem? Aoji pinched Inuzuka's chin with a look of evil in his eyes. Let go of those ideological baggage. What's so bad about that? As long as you obey me, you can also get happiness and liberation. Although I used some coercive means at that time, didn't you enjoy a little pleasure from it? Aoji leaned close to Inuyasha's paws. I remember the picture clearly. Someone got to the back, but he became more and more active. Inuzuka's eyes were filled with shame and anger. Although he didn't want to admit it, Aoji's methods were really too powerful, even if he resisted fiercely at the beginning, even if he felt extremely humiliated at the time, but in the process that was unforgettable. She did indeed sink into an almost confused sinking. It was soul-destroying joy. On almost every night that followed, she often had nightmares related to that day. But I always dream of some unforgettable details. When she woke up from her dream, there was also a little indescribable emptiness that she had even fantasized that if Aoji continued to dwell on it, then for the sake of the entire Inuzuka clan, she could once again endure that humiliation, even if it would become a long-term commodity of Aoji. But since that time, Qingtong has never taken the initiative to find her again. It was as if he had really forgotten her. While glad to have returned to a peaceful life, she had a little bit of loss in her heart. Maybe she really didn't have the charm of a woman, maybe it was just a pastime for him that time? All in all, she did not encounter the long-term coercion she expected. But now, he finally appeared again. Inuyasha Claw once again felt his magic evil, felt his unbridled gaze on himself. If there had not been a daughter's incident, he must have fallen long ago, right? She had long realized that her willpower in front of Aoji was not as strong as she thought. But now. You cheated on my daughter, and I will never forgive you. Inuyasha's eyes became incomparably firm. I will never give in again, unless you kill me directly. I will definitely fight you to the end, even if it is to lose the entire Inuzuka clan. I want to make up for my past mistakes, and I want to expose the true face of your demon. Inuyasha Claw said loudly, no matter how many people believe, no matter how many people don't believe, I will definitely expose your crimes and plant the seeds of doubt in people's hearts. And then what? If you do this, will anyone be happy? Aoji smiled calmly. You should be able to see that, right? Inuzuka Hana's happiness and sweetness now are all from me. Once you expose the truth, what can she get? She got nothing but disillusionment and remorse. Aoji whispered in Inuzuka's ear, rewriting her will little by little. This real world is too cruel, why not let her have a beautiful dream? If you really love her, don't let her suffer, even if you expose the truth. After all, even if you expose my face, you can't change anything, so you might as well close your eyes and enjoy my gifts. You should at least believe that I have the ability to make people happy. Whether it's you or Inuzuka Hana, you can be happy. Aoji's voice exuded a strong magic. Think about it, rather than blind confrontation, sinking will make you happy and liberated. His words were almost about to pierce Inuzuka's claw's defenses. She had already felt her own wavering. But she bit her lip anyway. You still give up, no matter what you say, I have already made up my mind. I'm not someone who gives up lightly. Aoji just smiled indifferently, and then his mind moved, and he used his will to create a huge room in place. In the middle of the room was a large bed. Aoji unbuttoned the first button on his clothes. Since I can't convince you with words, I'll talk to you in a different way. Don't worry, we'll have a lot of time. Episode 62, The Sinking Inuzuka Claw, the Inuzuka Flower of Happiness. With Aoji exhausted all means, Inuzuka Pa spent a very long time. Once again, she felt his magic. Suffering, patience, pain. And the unspeakable happiness, all kinds of feelings came and went, making her head more and more confused. Even thinking became weak. Those insistences that had never intended to back down seemed to be less important at the moment: daughter, innocence, self-esteem, all of which seemed to float above the clouds, farther and farther away from her. The defenses made up of anger have been broken down by endless pleasure. In front of Aoji, she felt that she had suddenly awakened her instinct to be a female again. She wants more. In this way, the canine claw is broken through the sanity, loses himself in happiness, and then finds himself back in the real world in a trance. Everything was still stuck in the moment when Aoji entered the door. Inuzuka was turning around and walking back after opening the door, and Inuzuka was still laying out the dishes and chopsticks at the table. The passage of time is less than a second. Aoji had already withdrawn the kaleidoscope and naturally closed the door and walked in. Meet again, Mrs. Inuzuka. As Aoji approached the dining table, he smiled and looked at Inuzuka Pa. I heard that you were in a bad health some time ago. Do you feel more comfortable now? Although there seemed to be only normal care and greetings in his words. But Inuzuka's heart was filled with strangeness. Although the monthly reading space is fake, the happiness felt is real. Even if it has returned to the real world, the satisfying afterglow has not disappeared. At this time, she only felt weak. You even need to quietly hold the table and support your body in this way. He must have been aware of all this. So of course his greeting was not as normal as it seemed, and the implication in his words was to ask himself if he was comfortable just now. Of course she was comfortable just now. And he knew it for granted. That's why I asked this question. He was teasing himself in front of his daughter. He's terrible. Thanks for the concern, I feel much better. Inuzuka barely managed to squeeze out a smile, trying to make himself look normal. There was a deep sense of guilt in her heart. After all, her beloved daughter is clearly ignorant of her lover's relationship with her own mother. She felt like she was betraying her daughter. But in the depths of that guilt, she had a very stimulating feeling again. It made her wonder if her heart had been twisted. At the thought of this, Inuzuka couldn't help but turn his head to look at his daughter and find that the other party was looking at him with a surprised face. Mom, you. Inuzuka Hana wanted to talk and stopped. What's wrong? Is there anything wrong with it? Inuzuka only felt his heart skip a beat. Did her daughter find anything about this? Nothing. I thought you had any opinion on Aoji, and you would lose your temper when you saw him. Inuzuka breathed a sigh of relief. I'm scared to death. I was afraid you would quarrel. Inuzuka Pa's suddenly showed an embarrassed expression. She almost forgot about it. Speaking of this, did I do something disrespectful before that made Mrs. Inuzuka unhappy? Aoji put the gift he had brought on the counter and turned his head to look sincerely at Inuzuka Claw. If there is something wrong, please advise me, and I will correct it. His attitude is very upright and sincere. Anyone who sees it will feel good. Nothing, I misunderstood you before, and now I understand that you are actually a very good person. Inuzuka took a deep breath, trying to make himself as calm as possible. That's great. Aoji smiled faintly and looked at Inuzuka again. Now you can rest assured, right? A hint of shyness appeared on Inuzuka's face. But I was a little confused. Judging from the previous performance, her mother obviously had a great opinion of Aoji, and as a result, as soon as the two people met, she was furious, and what she said was a misunderstanding, which was really a bit strange. However, since the mother said that it was a misunderstanding, Inuyasha did not intend to investigate further. The four of them enjoyed a sumptuous dinner together. Inuzuka still only cared about burying his head in the cooking, but he was not criticized by Inuzuka's claws. At the dinner table, she seemed a little distracted. After eating, Inuzuka ran back to his room like a wind, and Inuyasha stood up from his seat. Let's talk in the living room for a while, and I'll go and collect the dishes and chopsticks in the kitchen. I'll help you. Aoji took the initiative to say. No more. Inuzuka subconsciously chose to refuse. Don't be rude to him. Inuzuka smiled and squinted at his mother. Although he is a big man who calls the wind and rain outside, it is different in our family. After all, it is my lover, and he is also your half-son. As she spoke, she looked at the shield sweetly. My heart is full of happiness. Logically, no matter where a big man as Aoji visits, he can't do any housework, and he himself will not be willing or anyone will dare to make such rude demands on him. But Inuzuka knew that he would spoil her. But her words fell into Inuzuka's ears, but no matter how ashamed they were. What is a half-son? She couldn't help biting her lip. There was no son like him in the world, but she couldn't refuse her daughter's offer. Because just when she hesitated, Aoji had already picked up a few pairs of dishes and chopsticks and walked to the kitchen. The dog's paw can only pick up the rest of the tableware and keep up? It was a long time before the two men came out of the kitchen. How did you stay in the kitchen for so long? I want to go in and see what you're doing. Inuzuka asked casually as she cut the apple. The pipes in the kitchen are a bit blocked. Aoji smiled casually, so I helped your mother unblock it. A flush immediately appeared on Inuzuka's face. At this time, she felt like a thief, not daring to face her daughter as the lost master, and afraid that the other party would find out what she found, so she quickly said, I am a little uncomfortable, I am in the same room first. Oh, then you go to bed early. Inuzuka nodded. She didn't think there was anything wrong with her mother, and thought she was helping her to leave space for herself to be alone with Aoji. It seems that my mother still accepts you. Inuzuka watched her mother's back through the corridor and turned her head to look at Aoji happily and sweetly. Otherwise, she certainly wouldn't have given us a chance to be alone. Maybe she would have ordered you to be expelled. How could it be? Aoji sat down next to Inuzuka and gave a meaningful smile. The night has just begun. Episode 63, The Dedication of Two People, The Night of Flowers Blooming. It's raining heavily outside. Aoji stood in front of the window of Inuzuka's house, looking at the hazy rain curtain in the night. Otherwise, I won't go back today, right? What about Sister Sunset Red? Inuzuka said shyly, if you don't go back, won't they worry about you? It'll be all right. Aoji smiled faintly, I already said in advance that I might not go home tonight. Inuzuka's face turned red as soon as it shook. She understood what Aoji meant. If you're going to stay tonight, I'm afraid you'll have to sleep in the living room. Inuzuka bowed her head shyly, we don't have extra rooms in our house. Today is your first time here. If I let you stay in my room, my mother will definitely feel inappropriate. It doesn't matter, as long as there's a place to lie down. Aoji seemed to speak very well. Then I'll go get you the quilt. Inuzuka turned and took out a clean futon from the closet in the utility room and helped Aoji spread it on the sofa in the living room. It's not too early, so I'll go back to the room first? Well, you go to bed early. Aoji nodded. Good night. Inuzuka tiptoed her toes, her lips lightly touching Aoji's face, and then she turned and went back to her room. She changed into her pajamas. The lights went out. Then he lay in bed quietly waiting only to hear a creak. The unlocked door was opened by Aoji from the outside, and then closed and unlocked by him from the inside. Naturally, he slipped into Inuzuka Hana's bed. Didn't I say let you sleep in the living room? If my mother found out that you were in my room, it would be really embarrassing. Inuzuka's cheeks were flushed, and the tone of her speech was to meet and refuse. I'm thinking of you. Although the light in the room was dark, Inuzuka saw the enthusiasm in Aoji's eyes. I want to feel your body temperature again. What a big sex ghost. Inuzuka felt Aoji's small movements, and made a greasy nasal voice in shyness, then you should go back early when you are finished, so as not to be discovered by my mother. Rest assured, I have a number. Aoji nodded. The rain outside the window was falling all the time. And the lower it gets, the bigger it gets. 2 hours later, Inuyasha, who had experienced a heavy rain, finally stopped the fierce gasp. Once again, she reaped the perfect joy. Aoji kept warm with Inuzuka for a few more moments, then slowly got up from the bed, buttoned it while smiling, and said, then I'll go back to the living room and sleep. Despite the strong reluctance in her heart, Inuzuka nodded obediently. Don't forget to dream of me at night. Aoji smiled. Not really. Inuzuka said a few words, and then watched as Aoji left the room. She lay back on the bed and covered the quilt, feeling the afterglow of her lover and falling into a sweet sleep. After leaving the house, Aoji went straight to the outside of Inuzuka's room. Reached out and grabbed the doorknob. Twist gently. With a soft creak, the unlocked door was opened and Aoji walked in. Then the backhand closes and locks the door. Are you here? Although it was late at night, Inuyasha Pa was clearly still awake. I thought you would stay in her room. Didn't I say I would come? Aoji calmly walked over to Inuzuka's bedside, and if you don't believe I will come, why do you keep the door for me? It's not that you threatened me. Inuzuka looked at him with a red face and remembered what he had said when he was doing a prank in the kitchen. I didn't threaten you, did I? Aoji slowly and methodically unbuttoned his clothes. I just said that if you don't leave the door, I will feel very sad, very unhappy. Isn't that a threat? Inuzuka's face blushed. Unconsciously, she felt a little weak-hearted. To be fair, Aoji's words did mean threatening, but even this level of threat did not dare to refuse, but it showed her weakness and that she had been completely conquered. But she is not unable to excuse her weakness. This man is simply too powerful. Whether it was force, power, or personal will, in any aspect, he was so powerful that she felt that she was incomparably small, and it seemed reasonable to surrender to his feet. At this thought, Inuzuka's heart suddenly felt much better. Aoji knew exactly what was going on with her. But it didn't break. But just as he was about to undress and go to bed, he suddenly caught a glimpse of a picture frame on the nightstand that had been buttoned upside down. Aoji smiled and reached out to straighten the frame. In the picture frame is a photo of Inuzuka's former husband and wife, and the deceased husband who died early is smiling brightly in the photo. Do you feel embarrassed to cover the picture frame so much? This is really a tyrannical thing. Aoji adjusted the angle of the picture frame so that it was facing Inuzuka's bed. The more forbidden the fruit, the easier it is to get happiness. Haven't you realized this yet? Inuzuka's claws certainly felt it. Ever since her long domestication in the world of monthly reading, her mind had undergone a certain alienation, especially when Inuzuka was present tonight, and she always had a sense of excitement about being a thief. It's a very sinful feeling, but it's addictive. But she couldn't change her love for her daughter. Therefore, although she did not stop Aoji from taking the picture frame, when he was ready to go to bed, she still plucked up the courage to say, I can cooperate with all your requests, but can you promise me one thing? Oh? What's up? Aoji raised an eyebrow with interest. Never let my daughter know all this, never hurt her, never leave her. Inuzuka's expression was very serious. With the keen five senses of the Inuzuka clan, when Aoji walked into the door, Inuyasha's claws smelled the strong body fragrance of his daughter from him and guessed what he had done before coming to his room. I'll make her happy for the rest of her life. Aoji gave a satisfactory answer. Moreover, I will make you happy for the rest of your life, and since I am my woman, I will shield you from all the ups and downs from the outside world. Hearing his warm and affectionate words, Inuzuka closed his eyes contentedly. Then let go of all his defenses. In this way, under the same roof, she felt the feeling that her daughter had felt not long ago. But this time, there was no pain. Only happy on. Episode 64 Preparation before travel, people who are not bound by morality. The next morning. Inuzuka family. When the awakened Aoji got up from the couch in the living room, he found that Inuyasha had almost prepared breakfast. Inuzuka is burying his head in the grilled rice. As one of the future Konoha 12 little strongmen, at this time, he had no idea that his sister and mother had been conquered by others. I'm going to school. After eating, Inuzuka left the house in the wind. How did you sleep last night? Inuzuka at the dinner table turned her head and looked at Aoji. Isn't the sofa in the living room a little hard to sleep on? No, it's quite comfortable to sleep in. Aoji went to the kitchen to get a glass of water, rinsed his mouth, and then returned to the dining table and finished breakfast with the mother and daughter of the Inuyasha family. Well, it's almost time for me to say goodbye. Aoji smiled and looked at Inuzuka Pa. Last night's hospitality was very thoughtful, and I am very grateful. Inuzuka's claws gave him a very covertly white look. Out of trust in her mother and lover, Inuzuka didn't hear the meaning of Aoji's words at all, and even said that she was going to work at the inspection department, and then she stood up and followed him out of the house. The two men went to the inspection department together. At this time, Inuzuka did not dare to let others know about the relationship between the two, so she deliberately walked into the door of the inspection department separately from Aoji. Then she started the day's work normally. Since the meeting between her mother and her lover last night was very smooth, there was no expected dispute, and Inuzuka was in a good mood and threw herself into work with full enthusiasm. Of course, there was actually a little doubt in her heart. When she went out with Aoji this morning, she smelled the familiar smell of her mother from him. But she didn't think much of it either. Because Aoji had spent the whole night in his house yesterday, it would not be strange to get a little smell of anyone, although the smell of his mother was a little strong, but maybe he just had some physical contact inadvertently. Inuzuka is not suspicious enough to suspect that her mother and lover have a leg. That's unbelievable. But just as Inuzuka put this question behind her, the family Inuzuka Claw returned to his room to prepare for sleep. She hadn't slept well from the beginning last night. Then it was tossed around for too long. Soon after Inuzuka's claws were dipped into the pillow on his head, he fell into a wonderful sleep. In the dream, the figure of Aoji appeared again. At the same time that Aoji and Inuyasha in the dream fell in a warm affection, the real-life Aoji handed over the rest of the work to Yukiheim as an assistant after the inspection department had reviewed some important documents. He himself turned and returned to his home in Xanadu. Then he went to the dojo and began his daily routine of practice, and did not come out to take a bath until it was nearly dusk. How was last night? Happy? When Aoji came to Yurihome's room, she looked at him with a smirk. Did our lovely Miss Inuzuka Hana let you stay in her room? Of course. Aoji smiled and nodded, and then burst out a fierce material, and Mrs. Inuzuka Claw also left me a door. Really? Shirihong's eyes widened in surprise. They are real mothers and daughters, and this movement you made is inevitably too big, right? Why not? Aoji showed an unbridled expression. As long as I want to do it, why can't I do it? Morality, humility, order, how can these senseless things restrain me? Oh, you're a big wolf. Yuki smiled and shook her head. Does Miss Inuzuka know about your relationship with her mother? I don't know yet. Aoji smiled evilly, but when the time is right, she'll know, but I'm looking forward to the day when the two of them will be honest with each other. Aren't you afraid she can't accept this? The tip of Sunset Red's eyebrows is gently picked. Then can you accept this? Aoji smiled playfully. What would you do if I were to let this happen to you? Does this still need to be asked? Shirihong's expression was feminine and sweet. Whether it is body or soul, I already belong to you completely. As long as you are still willing to love me, I can do anything for you and pull anyone into the water. So Inuzuka will accept all this. Facing Yurihei, who had already completed the domestication, Aoji rubbed her head with satisfaction. Now I just need to slowly open her mind, and eventually I will be able to get my wish. I have no doubt about that. Yuri brushed the ends of her hair. I have long believed that you are omnipotent, and Miss Inuzuka is so simple. Maybe it won't be long before you are completely controlled. It's just a pity that I don't have time to deal with this matter for the time being. Aoji sighed suddenly. I'm afraid I'm going to leave Konoha and travel for a while soon. Why? Shirihong said with some doubt. Is there anything wrong with staying in Konoha? In your current position, is there any task that requires you to take matters into your own hands? I'm going to bring one of the three ninjas, Tsunade, back to the village. Aoji said somewhat helplessly. Looking at the whole Konoha now, it seems that no one else can really complete this task except me. You're talking about that princess gangster? Yuri looked at Aoji with some surprise. She has been away from Konoha for so many years. Why do you have to get her back now? By the way, I know she's really pretty. Especially the figure. Although I am very discouraged, there should be no one better than Princess Tsunade in shape, right? Shouldn't you be for this reason? Yuriko felt that she had caught the point, but she is a ninja of the previous generation after all. Are you sure you want to target her? And, aren't we women not playing enough? As I said just now, there are no taboos in my eyes, and anything can be done. Aoji smiled and shook his head. However, I want to find her, not just to covet her appearance, but because I have an imperative plan, and she is an indispensable part of the plan. In order to avoid a long night, I want to bring her under my control as soon as possible. Aoji smiled and added, of course, it is also appropriate to include her in my harem. After all, no matter from any aspect, she is eligible to enter this paradise. It seems that there will be more big celebrities to be sisters. Yuri shook her head with emotion, and suddenly looked up at Aoji again. So did you look for me this time to reward me again before you left? Of course, I'll give you a reward. Aoji smiled faintly, but before I go on a trip, there's one more thing to leave to you. What? I have captured another woman named Calamus, and it is almost time to pick it. Seiji Yun said lightly, but given your excellent performance the last time you pulled Inuzuka into the water, I have decided to let you play to your strengths again and let her accept the fact that she is one of my harems as soon as possible. To put it simply, I want you to let her. Depravity. Episode 65, The Bloom of Calamus, Princess Tsunade, in the casino. That day, Calamus was taken to Aoji's house. Filled with happiness, she originally thought that there was only one person in his family, and after seeing the vast home, she felt quite a degree of surprise. Because Aoji had never told her that her family was so big before. Based on these houses alone, Calamus can see that the seemingly low-key Aoji actually has a lot of property. He is definitely a huge wealth that the whole wooden leaf can count. Calamus was deeply shocked by Aoji, and once again determined that he had indeed not chosen the wrong person. After all, he had such a huge property, but he was still approachable in front of others, and he had never boasted about himself. The character of such a person will not be too bad no matter what. But this idea of Calamus was quickly annihilated after seeing Yurihong and the others. The delicate sunset red, the well-behaved and lovely spring, the gentle temperament of the Michin, these people are actually all Aoji's women. He has actually been hiding in the golden house at home. The whole world of Calamus was almost collapsing. She felt that she had never really known Aoji, never understood this gentle man, and now she knew that what she felt was just an illusion. In fact, he was a ghost. She wanted to scold him loudly, to cut him off like this. But those once beautiful past are replayed in her mind like a movie, making her feel a little reluctant even in this extremely angry situation. So much so that he could not take a firm step to leave. It was this hesitation that made her once again pulled back by Aoji's sweet words, and then lost herself in the surroundings of Yuriko and the others, wondering how they could spoil Aoji so much. She also inevitably fell like the Inuzuka flower she once was. It's like a fortress that can't defend itself. Aoji conquered the castle. After plundering all of Calamus' first time, Aoji finally contentedly captured another of his prey in Kiba. The search for a master was thus officially put on the agenda. Aoji soon embarked on his journey. Of course, before that, he had also comforted his women in various ways, so that they all had a full time of happiness and satisfaction, and he even went to the flower shop of the Ino family. After pulling out the demon passport, he said goodbye to Rino Yamanaka in his own way. Although there are still many flowers in the leaves that can be picked. But there was no need to delay the search for Tsunade any longer, and it wouldn't take long for him to leave this time, and he would be able to return after the trip and continue to enjoy life. And it can also bring back the most exciting thing about the Tsunade hand. After Sanshiro temporarily took charge of the Dark Ministry and the Patrol Department in name, Aoji arranged for Yuzuki Yuyen to take charge of specific things, and then he embarked on the journey alone without any escorts. At this time, he already had the general position of the Tsunade in his hands. As a resident of the ninja world, Aoji is of course much faster than ordinary people, and almost quickly arrives at the town where Tsunade has recently appeared, and connects with the dark part installed here through a unique secret code. A shrewd and capable Shadow Squad leader met with Aoji and reported to him on the surveillance of the past few days. Princess Tsunade hasn't been to the casino for a long time since she lost her last time. The dark man bowed his head and said, but these days she has made a lot of money with her own medical skills, and this morning she went to the casino again, and our people did not dare to follow up, but only watched from the periphery. Is she upset with your existence? Aoji looked calm. The situation is fair at the moment. The Shadow Minister reported briefly, as long as our people don't get too close, basically she won't overreact, but if she infiltrates her closely, she will show strong dissatisfaction. Therefore, at your behest, we have recently spread the surveillance network. That's right. Aoji nodded with satisfaction. It's enough that your work can be carried out to this point. The rest of the work will be left to me personally. You lead the way. I will go to the casino to meet Tsunade Tsunako. Yes. The Shadow Ministry hurriedly stooped to take the order. He left the secret stronghold of the Dark Ministry with Aoji and walked along the path of the town all the way forward, eventually arriving at a noisy casino. At this time, the Tsubasa was shouting 5 and 6 loudly inside. Okay, you all back off. Aoji waved his hand gently. This mission has been hard for everyone. From now on, the task of monitoring the Tsunade is officially over. Yes. The Shadow Ministry did not ask much and left very respectfully, and at the same time, with a whistle from him, the Shadow Ministry lurking around also disappeared in the blink of an eye. Aoji opened the curtain and calmly walked into the casino. As the largest casino in the whole town, it is a smell of people in the air. The gang hand, who had already gambled on Xing's head, ignored Shizin's persuasion and gambled all the money at the bottom of his box, and the result was that without exception, he lost a Jingguang. It seems that I really have to go to those dark ministries to borrow some money. Looking at his empty wallet, Tsunade finally began to have a headache for the next meal. I knew that I wouldn't gamble on the last one. Does this eldest sister run out of money? A gambler next to him stood up, looked at the proud figure of the gang with some disgust, and his face was full of bad intentions. As long as you are willing to let me cool down, I can fund you. When Tsunade heard this, his eyebrows suddenly rose. But just as she was about to teach the blind gambler a lesson, the other party had been grabbed by another person's wrist and thrown out, hitting the casino wall hard, breaking bones and unconscious. Why are you going to shoot? Tsunade glanced coldly at the handsome young man who had struck. As a ninja of Konoha, I can't tolerate him humiliating Princess Tsunade. You're also a shadow man? In Shimoseiji, he is now the captain of the Dark Ministry. The young man flashed a good-looking smile. the order to find and monitor you is what I gave to these people. It turns out that the person who wanted me to go back to Konoha was you. Tsunade glanced up and down at Aoji. You heard about our name of Sanshin, so you want to draw us back together and increase Kiba's high-end combat strength, right? At the same time, you can also take this matter to your own credit. To be honest, I don't hate people like you who are enterprising. But I hate it when people interfere with my decisions, and I hate it when people give me their will. So, I advise you. Tsunade patted Aoji's shoulder. Give up the idea of taking me back to Kiba, you don't have any chance of convincing me, see? In my eyes, you are just a milky little hairy head. Episode 66 In the secluded place where no one is, the Tsunade has broken the defense. Milky little hairs that stink and don't dry up? Aoji laughed faintly. Compared to the 3 ninjas of the Maiseki ninja world, I really have some deficiencies, right? But at least give me a chance to talk, right? If you insist on not going back, then I will not force it again. And I will completely remove all the shadows, and I will not disturb your peaceful life again. Then I'll give you 3 minutes. Tsunade waved his hand. Enough is enough. Aoji nodded and looked around again, but after all, this is a casino, and there are too many idle people. Can we find a quiet place to talk? Yes. Aoji's request was not excessive, and Tsunade agreed without much thought. The 3 of them came to a tavern. Aoji asked for a compartment, 2 bottles of sake and some snacks, and then closed the compartment door. You don't have a lot of time, so I'll get straight to the point. Aoji opened his mouth in alarm. According to the latest information we have received, the Great Snake Maru and Sand Ninja are already showing signs of cooperation, and in the near future, they are likely to join forces to attack Kiba. You know the current situation of Konoha, it is almost the most turbulent period. If you encounter such a blow, even if you do not directly perish, you will be in a very dangerous situation in the future. After all, the territory we occupy is too rich, and once there is obvious weakness, coupled with the old and new hatreds of the past, the other ninja villages will definitely be in a hurry, and then there will be a real danger of extinction. Aoji looked at Tsunade with a serious face. As the granddaughter of the 1st generation and a disciple of the 3rd generation, you should not want to watch Konoha fall into such a situation, right? You're not going to lie to me, are you? Tsunade said in disbelief. Although the Great Snake Maru has gone astray, he doesn't want to attack Kiba, right? Intelligence is not deceiving. Aoji said lightly, and what is the nature of the Great Snake Maru? I think you also have some understanding, although when he ran away from Konoha, there were various factors that caused it, not his problem, but... In this situation, do you really dare to say that he would never show his fangs to Konoha? Tsunade had to fall silent. Because she can't deny that there is indeed such a possibility. To tell you the truth, you've been out for so long and the village has never interfered in your decision, but now it's different. Aoji looked at Tsunade with a serious face. This time I came to find you, which is also the meaning of the 3 generations. 3 generations of old men? Tsunade sighed. It seems that this crisis is indeed a bit amazing. So we want you to think about the big picture. Aoji said with a serious face, we only hope that you can go back to the village to help Kiba through the difficulties. After the crisis is over, you are still free, you can go wherever you want. Well, you succeeded in convincing me. Tsunade was a very cheerful person, and said bluntly, since this is the case, I will follow you back to Konoha, and also, have you gone to find Zillai? With him, the village would be safer. We have spread out an intelligence network to look for traces of the Lord of the Self. But nothing has been achieved so far. Aoji revealed a bitter smile. He is simply a dragon who has seen the head and not the end, and is even more mysterious than you. I can give you a suggestion. Tsunade took another glass of sake and said with a smile, you can go to the bathhouses and kabukicho in major towns, and maybe you'll find this guy soon. Thank you for your guidance. Aoji nodded. Now, can you leave with me and go back to the village? Let's go now. Tsunade smiled a little. Vigorous, not bad. I appreciate your style of doing things, much stronger than Tuanzang's dull old man. Thank you for your compliment. Aoji smiled modestly and then set out on his way back with Tsunade and Shizune. Since all 3 of them are ninjas, the speed of the road will naturally be fast, because they do not need to follow the road at all, but go in a nearly straight line, encountering mountains and mountains along the way, and encountering forests through forests. But when they were crossing a vast deserted forest, Aoji suddenly stopped. What's going on? Tsunade and Shizune also stopped. They didn't know anything about Aoji, so they thought he might have the ability to perceive. Did you find suspicious people nearby? No, quite the opposite. Aoji shook his head. This is a place I have carefully chosen. There is no one nearby, there is no geographical value, and no one else will appear. Then why did you stop? Tsunade was puzzled. Because I need such a no-man's environment in order to brutally ravage you and Miss Mute. To put it bluntly, I will tear your clothes apart with violence so that you cannot resist my wanton behavior. Aoji opened the eternal kaleidoscope of his eyes. The gaze is cold and heartless. Do you dare to be so rampant after awakening the kaleidoscope? Tsunade narrowed his eyes. So far, I have met quite a few disciples, and the fate of each of them is very miserable. And you, no exception. It's a pity that the 3 generations actually looked at the wrong person this time, and appointed someone like you as the captain of the Dark Ministry. If it weren't for those 2 riding wheel eyes, I would definitely suspect that you are a fake, but now. Tsunade rolled up his cuffs and said with full of fighting spirit, let me clean up the portal myself. Then let's wait and see. Aoji stood motionless, and a huge blue figure appeared outside his body, first a skeleton, then a tendon tissue, and finally a complete body wearing battle armor and hanging a katana. Have you actually developed the riding wheel eye to this point? Tsunade suddenly showed a serious expression on his face. She had realized that the pupil technique of these eyes alone had already given Aoji a shadow-level strength. The battle that follows will definitely not be easy. But Tsunade still had enough confidence in herself, because she was a master who had been killed from the ninja war, and she definitely had more combat experience than the young man in front of her, and she believed that she would definitely win. However, it was only 10 minutes later that I fainted. The mute holding the dolphin had been knocked unconscious, lying unconscious on the cold turf. Tsunade was also completely controlled by Aoji. Now, please tell me again. Aoji pressed Tsunade to the ground and calmly tore open her collar. Who was the smelly hairy boy? Episode 67, The Submission of the Gang Hand, the female master and apprentice who were taken into the pocket. As the granddaughter of the 1st generation, Tsunade has always had a high status in Kiba. Therefore, she is called Princess Tsunade. But even the real princess of the Fire Nation was creeping at the feet of Aoji, and her so-called princess would not be taken seriously. As long as you are strong enough, you can do whatever you want. The strength of the gang hand is only a qualified film level. It wasn't enough to see in front of Aoji. The horizontal and vertical are all weaker opponents than themselves, and the weak line are many, and the result is the same. As a result, Aoji gave Tsunade a great humiliation. This was a humiliation she had never felt even in the ninja war, and she had always stood on the top of the mountain, never thought that there were mountains in the world that were much higher than herself. I never thought I would be treated like this. But in addition to the great humiliation, she also had to admit it. Aoji's methods are really clever. She couldn't resist the wave of happiness. The same goes for Mute. You've got your way, what's going to happen to us next? Tsunade was dressed in tattered clothes and looked at Aoji with a complicated look. She knew that neither she nor Shizune could resist the man in front of her. The gap in strength between them is simply too great. Moreover, looking at Aoji's relaxed look, Tsunade was very suspicious that he had not used all his strength, and perhaps he had hidden a lot of whole cards. Now her and Shizune's lives were basically in Aoji's hands. She was very suspicious that Aoji would kill someone. Because his foundation was in Konoha, and the influence of the gang hand in the Muyi could be imagined, once his bullying of Princess Gangye's master and apprentice was exposed, then his hard-won position would all be lost. She couldn't believe he would be willing to take such a risk. What do you think I'm going to do with you? Aoji smiled and squinted at Tsunade, with a dangerous gleam in his eyes. This attitude made Tsubasa more convinced of his ideas. As a ninja, I have long had the consciousness to meet death, but I still want to ask you, at least, to keep a silent life. Although he felt that there was little hope, Tsunade still issued a plea. What if I let her go, and she ran to reveal what I did this time? Aoji smiled faintly. She's not me after all, she speaks softly in Konoha. Tsunade tried to convince Aoji, don't you have a lot of status in Kiba village? Even if Shizune goes to raise you, you can easily suppress it, and it will also bring her own death. How could she do this? I'll do that. Shizune gritted her teeth and said, as long as I don't die, I will not die with you, demon. Mute. Tsunade screamed. She tried her best to persuade Aoji to give Shizune a chance to survive. Rao was still consciously not hopeful, and now that Shizune herself said so, it was even more hopeless. Rest assured, I won't kill you. Aoji's words were unexpected by Tsunade hand. You're going to let us go? Tsunade is a bit hard to imagine. After all, she was not a naive girl, and since Aoji could do such a terrible job. Naturally, it is impossible to be a good person. How could he leave 2 living mouths to bring risks to himself? From the very beginning, I intend to make you work for me. Aoji smiled faintly. Human beings, in the final analysis, are also animals. Cattle and sheep can be domesticated, of course, humans can be. Before returning to Konoha, you will become my loyal dogs. Why should I kill you? Domestication? Loyal dogs? Tsunade was stunned. It was only then that she understood what Aoji was thinking. But after understanding all this, she had some fortunate feeling in her heart, and she was convinced that she would never be tamed. I didn't expect that this Aoji was so arrogant inside, that he actually thought that he could tame the famous Sanshin. Tsunade has grown step by step to today, although there is a weakness of hemophobia, but after experiencing various wounds and baptisms of war, her heart has become incomparably tough. Even if this young man can use force to possess his own body, there is absolutely no way to destroy your own spirit. Moreover, as long as he can save his life for the time being, he has a chance to escape, and once he can live to Konoha to expose Aoji's crimes, then he will die without a place to die. Maybe you can find a chance to kill while pretending to be obedient. At the thought of this, the humiliation of being possessed by the other party's body has subsided, and Tsunade has secretly expected the pleasure of revenge success. I thought I could remember his desperate expression before he died. Tsunade secretly clenched his fists. Of course, Aoji knew exactly what she thought, but he didn't take it to heart, because from the beginning, he knew what the final result would be. In the process of returning to Konoha next, Aoji deliberately slowed down his progress. Most of the time is spent on domestication and mute. He had created many times the illusion that he could escape and fight back, but each time he had snuffed out all her hopes after she had put it into action, when her heart had collapsed in a huge gap. And every time he resisted, he would give them the punishment in their eyes. When they are briefly weak, he will give them a little warmth and care. He made them gradually get used to obedience to him. He made them gradually become afraid of him. Hardened in the bones, irrepressible fear. As time went on, the will of the Tsunade was destroyed little by little, and Shizune, because the will itself was not tough enough, the speed of the fall was still far above the Tsubasa, and it hardly took long for it to completely give in. With the influence of the example of mute, Tsunade gradually sank his body and mind. When it was confirmed that their will to resist was gone, Aoji began to degenerate their minds with false care, making them like victims of Stockholm Syndrome, and gradually getting used to being his slaves. They gradually accepted the self-knowledge that they belonged to Aoji. In short, Aoji succeeded in domesticating them. When the gate of Konoha appears in front of the three people who have embarked on the way home, Tsunade and Shizune, although they look the same as before, have become Aoji's loyal prisoners inside. They have been reborn, in a way that is unique to Qingtong. Then the three of them learned something together. Huge changes have taken place in the village. Episode 68 Amazing Changes, Great Snake Pills. 3 generations have died? As soon as Aoji and Tsunade and Shizune returned to Konoha, they heard the news that surprised him a little. Who is it that is conspiring against Sanshiro? There should be none. Yu Huiyan, who had just reported the situation to Aoji, shook his head. According to the investigation of our dark department and the analysis class, we have found no traces of assassination of the 3 generations. He should have died naturally. Aoji couldn't help but frown. The loyalty of Yu Shiyan was unquestionable, and naturally he would not hide any clues from him, but this did not mean that no one had obstructed the death of the 3 generations. Perhaps it was a clever means that no one could detect it. After all, the 3 generations in the original work survived until the time of the Naka Ninja exam. And it was because of the Great Snake Pill that he was killed. If there had not been an incident in which the Great Snake Maru had invaded Konoha, perhaps the 3 generations would have survived for many more years. But if someone must have plotted to kill Sanshiro, it wasn't necessarily true. After all, no one in Konoha had this motive, and if it was someone from other ninja villages, if they could quietly kill the shadow of a village, they would have unified the ninja world long ago with this ability. Therefore, Duntong had to consider a possibility. The 3rd generation is an old man, the physical fitness is not as good as when he was young, a little careless is easy to get sick into the body, and now because his butterfly has flapped its wings, it is not impossible for the 3 generations to die early. This is certainly not good news. Sanshiro was a puppet that Aoji had exchanged for other god, and it was a pity that he had suddenly lost it now, but fortunately, now that he had basically grasped the power of Kiba, he would not be greatly affected for the time being. He still has the ability to seize the power of the wooden leaf. Anyway, let the 3 generations go into the ground first. Aoji gave the order, yes. Yu Shiyan nodded hurriedly. So after Aoji returned to Konoha with Tsunade, and the first thing he did was to arrange the funeral of the 3 generations. It was a very grand funeral. Since Sanshiro enjoyed high popularity throughout the village, almost everyone who attended the funeral felt heartfelt sadness, especially Naruto, a little ghost who had always been against Mayo, and cried a lot. After the funeral, the problem to be solved is the selection of a new Naruto. Originally, everyone in the village agreed that Aoji would be the next Naruto, but he had already laid a solid foundation, and second, Sanshiro was obviously interested in transferring power to him. But now it's different. Tsunade is back. As the third daughter of the first generation of Naruto, the disciple of the third generation of Naruto, and one of the three ninjas of the famous Shin ninja realm, the ganghand of Genhong Miaomasa, regardless of his background or prestige, is more like a Naruto candidate. Koharu and Mito Motoya moved to such thoughts. The power of a fledgling young man like Aoji had always been unaccustomed to those who called themselves old politicians, and now that they thought they had a chance to bring down Aoji, they were suddenly ready to move. But they did not expect that Tsunade had completely surrendered to Aoji. When they secretly contacted the Tsubasa, Tsunade truthfully reported to the Seiji the plans of the two advisors. Then reject them. Aoji said calmly, "Let's just say that you have no interest in Naruto's position right now." Tsunade nodded hurriedly. Now she did not dare to resist Aoji's orders at all, even though she was now in the base camp of Kiba. However, Aoji knew very well that although he had successfully tamed Tsunade himself, this kind of taming was not as permanent as other gods, and if he accidentally let go of the reins, then Tsunade might be able to find his own personality. Although it is also a way to make her the fifth generation of Naruto, it is also a way to become the master behind the scenes. But he didn't want her to be a man of power. As long as she has a certain degree of power, her self-awareness may awaken again, which of course should be avoided as much as possible. He decided to act as Naruto himself. Although the time is not yet fully mature, it can only go from the back of the scenes to the front of the stage. Therefore, under the resolute concession of Tsunade hand, Aoji smoothly became the fifth generation of Naruto of Kiba, officially becoming the supreme leader of the entire ninja village, and completely controlling the power of the entire village. His face was also engraved on the Naruto rock. It wasn't until this moment that the hand punch of a Ichiraka ramen shop truly felt the status of Aoji today. His daughter's lover is actually the new Naruto. While he sighed at his daughter's vision, he was also glad to have such a fire shadow, and with the approachable attitude that Aoji had shown before, he would definitely benefit the civilians when he became the leader, right? Of course, he wouldn't have thought about what his beloved Naruto was doing in the Naruto building at the moment. You see, that's your grandfather's Naruto rock. In Naruto's locked office, apart from Shizune, there were only two people, Aoji and Tsunade, looking at that Naruto rock. Do you think of your grandfather? You see, from this perspective, does he look like he's looking at us? Tsunade bit his lip and looked up, then nodded silently. Then let's get started. Aoji turned his head and whispered a few words to Tsunade hand, and then she walked obediently to the window. Then leaned forward and held the glass with both hands. Aoji walked behind her. Standing next to him, Shizune lowered his head with a red face, and all kinds of unbearable sounds came from his ears. There was some heat in her heart. Because she knew very well that when the gangster couldn't hold back, it would be her turn next. However, at the same time that Aoji is having fun, Kuzunu no Kuni, an underground base. I didn't expect that the old man of the three generations actually died like this, which is a pity. In the dark and gloomy secret room, there were only two candles dimly lit, and the cold-faced Great Snake Pill sat on the throne and sighed in a hoarse voice. Unfortunately, I wanted to know him with my own hands. Did the adults call me here because of this? The female ninja standing in front of the Great Snake Maru was none other than the Red Lotus, a user of the Crystal Retreat, who was strong and had been a preparatory container for the Great Snake Maru. Yes, now that 3 generations are dead, the leaves will be very empty. The Great Snake Maru nodded. Ninjas are born for war, but the current ninja world has been peaceful for too long, and it is as boring as a pool of stagnant water. So, I'm going to make the windmill of the ninja world turn again. Then my task is sneak into the leaves, contact the pieces I left in the leaves, organize their forces, and wait for my next move. The Great Snake Maru commanded, there is a boundary on the periphery of the wooden leaf, I will tell you the way to pass, remember not to act rashly, after all, the foundation of the wooden leaf is still there. Rest assured, adults. Red Lotus said very confidently, this mission will definitely not have a half-point difference pool. At this point, she didn't know she was going to fall into the tiger's mouth. Aoji's Tamaguchi River. Episode 69 Red Beans, you don't want to be considered undercover? After Aoji officially assumed the throne of Naruto, he quickly received some information from the Dark Ministry. The first information was about the village of Shine. Some time ago, the 4 generations of Wind Shadows launched a surprise attack on the daimyo of the Valley of the Winds, who was partial to the Konoha Valley, killing the daimyo and purging the nobles of the Wind Kingdom in one fell swoop, hoping to emulate Aoji in holding the real power of the Wind Country. But he provoked a fierce backlash among the people of the Wind. What a naive guy. Seeing the report, Aoji couldn't help but shake his head and fail. This fourth-generation Wind Shadow's brain seemed to be not very good. Intimidating daimyo and manipulating the real power of the Fire Nation can certainly be emulated, and the ninja's force would have qualified to become the de facto ruler. Moreover, the daimyo of the Wind Country is still a wooden leaf-licking dog, and the Wind Shadow should also want to deal with it quickly. But the methods he used were too extreme. The nobles ruled the land for so long that the commoners acknowledged and accepted this fact, and even Aoji, who was backed by the strongest ninja village, did not kill the daimyo, but took power by coercion. It is also to avoid a backlash of public opinion as much as possible. These 4 generations of Wind and Shadow are good, they have done everything on the surface, and they have done it fiercely. Although they have gained power, they will cause endless troubles, at least for a while. He will definitely be anxious. Let's abandon the search for the flying section for a while and concentrate the eyeliner into the Wind Country. Aoji sighed for a moment and issued an order to the ninja in the village of Satsuki, who was standing in front of him. Once the ninjas of the Sand Ninja village have signs of mobilization, they must report it as soon as possible. Yes. Now that she had been promoted to the head of the Dark Ministry, she nodded, and she also understood that Aoji was guarding against the 4 generations of Wind Shadows. And that's certainly necessary. Aoji remembered that Luo Sha had been hungry for the resources of Kiba in the original work, so he would drive Sand Shinobi to invade Kiba at the instigation of the Great Snake Maru, and now that he had removed the nail in the eye of Daimyo, the next thing must be Kiba. Of course, for Aoji, the village of Sand Ninja is really not a big problem, for their strength has long been seriously declined. Unless they raided Kiba without any defense, a village of Sand Ninjas was still easy to deal with. The real big problem is the Great Snake Pill. Has this information been confirmed? Aoji opened the second document on the table and couldn't help but frown. The Great Snake Maru is already planning to subvert Kiba? Yes. A long time ago, Tunzang once arranged a dark chess piece that was absolutely loyal to Konoha, allowing him to sneak under the hands of the Great Snake Maru, and was left behind after the Great Snake Maru left the Konoha to be the internal response. But according to his report, the Great Snake Maru has ordered him to start moving, who has been in a lurking state. This person who can lurk into the heart of the Great Snake Pill is a bit skilled. Aoji nodded with satisfaction. At that time, Tuanzang had arranged more than 10 dark chess pieces, and the others had been cleaned up, and only one of them survived, which was indeed very difficult. Yu Shiyan agreed. Then what exactly does the Great Snake Pill want them to do this time? Aoji asked. There is no clear order for the time being, only let them collect the current defense situation of Konoha as much as possible. Yu Shiyan replied. It seems that he is really planning to invade Konoha. Aoji thoughtful. One more thing, according to the dark chess player, the Great Snake Maru will recently send an elite squad to Kiba, and it is said that the leader is a female ninja named Red Lotus. Yu Shiyan said again. Red Lotus? Aoji remembered that the Great Snake Maru did have such a subordinate whose mouth suddenly revealed a smile. Now that he had succeeded as Naruto, of course, there were several lackeys with cards under his hands, and now Tsunade was counted as one, and Red Lotus, although slightly weaker, was also very valuable as an eagle dog. And her figure and appearance are not top-notch, but mature and capable. It's a different flavor. Then let the people below pay attention to a little, loose on the outside and tight on the inside, pay attention to all outsiders from now on, and once they find suspicious people, don't act rashly, just report to me directly. Aoji thought for a moment and then said, I'll draw a picture of the Red Lotus for you later, and you'll have to ask them to pay special attention to this person, and then I'll personally go out on horseback to deal with her. Yes. Yu Shiyan nodded again. Although she didn't know why Aoji knew what Red Lotus looked like, she would never have any doubts in front of him. Also, that dark chest Qing didn't know what other internal reactions the Great Snake Pill had in the village? All he knows is 2 people. Yu Huiyan replied, but according to our speculation, the actual number of people is at least 10 times higher. Then dig them all out as much as you can. Aoji said very decisively, start with those 2 people and hand them over to Senai Hiki of the torture team, and make sure to make them spit out all the information. Of course, the Great Snake Pill can't be stupid enough to let all the insiders know each other. This move is mainly to knock the mountain and shock the tiger. Aoji's index finger tapped lightly on the tabletop, including the elite squad sent by the Great Snake Maru this time. They must not be let out, since the Great Snake Maru wants to explore our details, then give him a deep impression. Also, keep an eye on all the ninjas who have been involved with the Great Serpent Maru. A hint of murderous intent flashed in Aoji's eyes. If they have any changes, they can be directly arrested or executed. That side of the red beans washed by hand. You can leave her alone for the time being, I'll handle it myself. Yes. After receiving the order, Yu Uxian respectfully withdrew. Aoji thought for a moment. He also left Naruto's office and walked down the street to the apartment where Might Maki Red Bean lived. As Naruto, he had the right to know the address of any ninja. He had already remembered where Hondo's home was. So when a moment later, Hondo was holding a few strings of balls in one hand and preparing to open the door with a key in the other, surprised that the door had already been opened, and a handsome young man was standing in the room. Lord Naruto? Hondo was surprised at first, and then said with some dissatisfaction, if you have something, can't you just summon me directly? Trespassing into other people's homes is not the work of a leader. I came to you because I wanted to talk to you about something. Aoji didn't answer and asked, you should remember your mentor Great Snake Maru, right? I've broken off relations with him. Hondo's face sank. Who can guarantee that? It's no secret that we found evidence that the Great Snake Maru is planning to invade Kiba, and you. Aoji glanced up and down at Hondo and revealed a faint smile. You don't want to be considered as undercover, right? Episode 70 The Struggle Between Wisdom and Wisdom, the touching and surrender of Hondo. In the interrogation room of the torture team, the 2 undercover agents of the Great Snake Maru had already been tortured. Haven't they recruited yet? Senai Biki walked into the interrogation room and ordered the 2 men who were being tortured, forget it, stop the torture first, their bodies are almost unbearable. Oh, these 2 guys have 2 hard mouths. One of his men wiped the sweat from his forehead. If we don't have any information, how can we deal with Lord Naruto? I'll go and ask Yamanaka to come and help. Ibiki sighed, although the Great Snake Maru must have left a ban in their brains, if it was Kaichi himself, there should be a little gain. He was about to turn around and go out when he saw a woman walk in. Red beans? Ibiki frowned, you are not from the torture team, who allowed you to enter the interrogation room? It's Lord Naruto's order. Hondo took out a stamped note and naturally handed it to Ibiki. Is it? Ibiki relaxed, but just as he reached for the note, Hondo suddenly sneaked in and slapped him in the back of the head, knocking him unconscious. The 2 torturers were so shocked that they were knocked unconscious just when they tried to fight back. You are. The 2 already dying neighing looked at Hondo doubtfully, are you trying to save us? I don't have that skill. Hondo shook his head, you are so badly injured, even if you leave the interrogation room, you can't escape Konoha, and in the end you will still die. So what do you want to do? Although we didn't know each other's identities before, in fact, I am also the internal response left by the Great Snake Maru. Hondo said with a serious face, according to the information I have, you have been betrayed by your own people. It's just a pity that I haven't been able to dig up the name of the traitor for the time being. Hondo looked at Neiing, who was tied to the torture chair, do you have any suspects? Tell me if there is, so that you can avoid greater losses. Oh, you want to deceive our intelligence? One of the Neiing laughed weakly, you are nothing more than standing in the position of Konoha and trying to put out the name of Neiing who has not yet been caught. Do you think we will be fooled by this? You've been lurking in Konoha for so long, you should have known me, right? Hondo said coldly, I am a disciple of Lord Great Snake Maru, and I still have the heavenly spell seal left by him on my neck. Do you think I can't be trusted? Oh, of course. If you're really our people, you won't just knock these guys unconscious. So, I won't believe you. The neighing even had some difficulty speaking, but a sneering smile of contempt still appeared on his face, but not only do we not believe you, but Kiba will not believe you, and your identity is your original sin. Even if you hollow out your mind to help them. The Uchiha looked at the 3 people who had fainted on the ground, but you can never exchange your sincere trust. After all, you yourself know very well that your relationship with Lord Great Snake Maru is too deep. Hondo, you will always be an orphan abandoned by both sides. The tone of the Innereing was full of sarcasm, compared to us, who are deeply trusted by the Great Snake Maru, and who have the destination of Kiba, you are the most pitiful and pathetic person. Hondo silently clenched his fists. Her heart had to sadly admit that the other party did see her situation clearly. Although since the Great Snake Maru left the village, although she had always been loyal to Kiba, she had always been ostracized by Kiba's top brass and had never gained real trust. Trusted by the Great Snake Maru? Another figure suddenly walked into the interrogation room, and it was Aoji, who was wearing a white Naruto robe. The Great Snake Maru will not trust anyone, in the end, you are just a poor worm who deceives yourself. Lord Naruto. Hondo bowed his head and came to Aoji, I'm sorry, I didn't fulfill your request. It doesn't matter. Everything in front of him was already expected by Aoji, and his face just said quietly, this matter has a loophole, and I can't blame you for failure. Haha, he's lying to you. The Uchiha sneered, although what he says is good, his heart will definitely always be wary of you. But Aoji didn't even look at him. Wordlessness is the greatest contempt. By the way, when Ibiki wakes up, you remember to say sorry to them, and you'd better invite them to dinner. After all, you'll be colleagues from now on. Aoji took out a document and handed it to Hondo. This is the letter of appointment that I have signed, and from now on, you will be the vice captain of the torture team. Me? Vice captain? Hondo asked in some disbelief. Moreover, I will also authorize you to participate in the entire crackdown on the undercover of the Great Snake Maru. Aoji smiled softly. Me, I see. Hondo couldn't help biting his lip, and a stream of hot tears welled up in his eyes. She knew exactly what Aoji's statement meant. Even the captured undercover was dumbfounded, because Seiji's trust had indeed been put into practice. Is this what it feels like to be believed? Hondo took the document in Aoji's hand and wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes with his sleeve. Ming is very happy, why do I want to cry? Her heart was full of emotion. Trust is simple to say, but even in the amiable 3 generations, Hondo has never felt such a thing. It was only at this moment that she knew how wonderful it was to be trusted. It was only at this moment that she finally had a heartfelt sense of belonging. Lord Naruto, please accept my allegiance. Hondo suddenly half knelt in front of Aoji. I will follow you forever until the end of hell. I already know your faithfulness. Aoji helped her up and smiled and said, but now, I'm afraid I have to tell you something. Leave it to you alone. Hondo said hurriedly. It's not a bad habit to like sweets, but you have to be moderate. Aoji smiled and rubbed the head of the red bean. I don't want you to change from red beans to sweet potatoes in the future. Lord Naruto. Hondo's cheeks immediately turned red, and he nodded with some embarrassment. I'll pay attention later. Face the red beans that have become well-behaved. Aoji's heart was satisfied. He was also very clear that what he had done had filled Hondo's heart with warmth and touch. Believe in the near future. He could just fill her with something else.